Hello. I've not actually talked about driving in the UK, driving in England, and what it's like to be, back here doing that again, because it is quite a different experience to doing it in Japan. And if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you'll know that I have, on one or two occasions, moaned a little bit about some of the differences that you find in Japan. So I might have mentioned this before. I'm struggling to remember now, but I was hoping to hire a car when I came to England, but I had to give up my English driver's license and transfer it into a Japanese driver's license. So that means that it's like being a Japanese person trying to hire a car in Japan. Even though I've lived in England all my life, well, not all my life because I've been living in Japan for a while, but I've been living in England for most of my life. I took my driving test in England. I passed my driving test in England. I've got I had a full English license. I've driven for over 20 years in England. But no, when I come back home, it's like I'm just, treated like a regular Japanese person, which I think is a bit ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. If I am going to say something strongly worded, then yes, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. So it means that no one will hire a car to me unless it's from a special car hire place that's sort of twinned with an airport. So you land at the airport, you pick up your car, you drive away. Those kind of places will insure me, to drive a car. Like normal hire car places all over the UK that aren't near airports, they will not touch me. They're like, oh no, we don't insure drivers that don't have a British driving license. That is complete and utter nonsense. What on earth is that about? I mean, that does not happen in Japan. I seem to remember. Well, I don't believe it does, because I seem to remember being able to hire a car before from just any old place, really. It wasn't anywhere near an airport or anything like that. Just a regular car hire place. And I went in and I gave them a copy of my English passport and my English driver's license, and I was able to hire the car perfectly fine. So that's just a weird thing that happens over here in the UK. That's pretty poor. That is. I can't understand that. I mean, it's down. It's not a government rule or anything like that. It's not a law. It's just down to the discretion of the company. It's a choice that the car hire company makes, and for whatever reason they've decided not to allow it, not to try and insure those types of people. There must be some reason for it, but I don't know. Really weird. So that means that if I want to hire a car, I've got to hire one from the airport, and that means they're bloody expensive. It's a lot more expensive trying to hire a car from an airport than it is from just a local place. There's a place that my parents and I would normally hire cars from, where very close to where they live, and we've used them quite a few times, and just couldn't use them at all. So what we ended up doing was my father was able to put me on his license. Rang up and told them what the situation was and explained that I didn't have an English driver's license, and they said that was okay, and he had to pay some money, some extra money, but it was an awful lot cheaper than hiring a car, obviously. So I've had shared access to a car whilst I've been here in England so far, and I would say the first time I went out in the car, it was a little bit unfamiliar. Because I drive a manual. No, I wish I did. I drive an automatic car in Japan, and practically everyone drives manual cars in England. So I had to make that adjustment from automatic to manual. And I would say the first time I went out, it was just a little bit unfamiliar, a little bit alien feeling, but not terribly so. And indeed, my father remarked he was surprised by how normal my driving seemed, considering I hadn't been driving a manual car for how many years? I don't know, almost getting on for, well, it's probably like 2.5 years or something like that. He said I was surprisingly good. And then, I don't know, second time I went out, third time I went out, it started to feel pretty natural again, and I wasn't really thinking about it. So that's good, because I was a little bit, I don't know about concerned, but I was just sort of wondering, like, would I sort of lose it a bit? Would I lose the ability, or would I be confused by driving for so long and not having to operate a clutch or gears? Would I just sometimes forget a bit? But no, that wasn't the case. I suppose my brain is still very much wired for manual driving, so that's good. Anyway, what did I notice that was different? First of all, the speed. Goodness me. I know one of the things I sort of complained about was how slow everyone drives in Japan. Not their fault, obviously. I mean, just the laws are different, and the speed limits are a lot slower. But at the same time, I've come to appreciate that that's the way things have to be, because the roads are a lot smaller and tighter, and there's more obstacles. There's roads without pavements and people walking in them, and people cycling sometimes in the middle of the roads almost. Some people come right out, and all these traffic traffic signs that sort of stick half into the roads, and there's just loads of obstacles over here, giant curbs. So yeah, I can appreciate why the speed is a lot less. At the same time, there are those occasions where I sort of think if I was doing the same journey in England, I would have been there by now. So it was very interesting to be back in England, back driving at the English speeds, and I did feel like these are this is faster than I remember. This is this feels like we're really shifting now. And to the point where I did think maybe it was a bit too fast, actually. Maybe we don't need to drive that fast at all, because one thing my wife noticed, because she gets car sick, is that when she drives with me in a car in Japan, she's fine. But when she drives with me in a car in England, she's not. She felt rather nauseous, rather sick when I was driving her about in England, just because there seems to be more curves in the roads. There are a lot of straight roads over here in Japan, lots of sort of grid type systems. Well, it sort of feels that way. The roads feel a lot straighter, and then you'll just have a straight road and then a 90-degree angle and onto another straight road and then a 90-degree angle and another one. Not all of them, but it feels like that, a bit more organized, I suppose, in that sense. Whereas English roads are just, wow, they're just all over the place and up and down and bends in them and curves, and they're really organic, sort of grown without very much thought, I don't think. Which is no bad thing if you if you're one of those people who sort of driving around a corner and you like a chicane, in and out of a corner, and it's you're driving a little bit quick and it's a little bit fun perhaps. But obviously if you suffer from car sickness, that's not good at all. The traffic lights, I loved them. I'd never thought I'd say that I love traffic lights, but I do. I just love the way that you get this amber warning before it goes to green. It doesn't just go red, green. It's, you've got your red, you've got your amber, and then green. It's still one of the things that I'm a lot more used to it over here now. But I still see people in front of me who they just they don't notice the change. Like me, for some reason, I just find it so hard to notice that it's green, and I'm often sitting behind someone and I'm thinking, have you seen it's green? I don't think you have, but I'm not annoyed. I make the same problem, the same mistake all the time, so I just sit there and wait patiently. But I just think if only they just introduced that extra colour, I'm pretty sure it would help. Like I said, I never had this trouble noticing the lights changing in England, changing from red to green, because I think there's that extra step in there, which somehow, I don't know, just that bit of movement, that different colour. I don't know what it is. someone somewhere must know the science behind this and why it makes a difference. I'd be fascinated to find out why. So that was nice. What else? Driving on the motorway was really fast. It was nice having proper curbs everywhere, proper pavements and proper curbs. That was nice. And what I liked the most about that is like when you're coming out of somewhere, I don't know, like say exiting a car park for a supermarket, for example, you don't have to like look, like when you're turning to the left or the right, you don't have to look if your car's going to hit a curb. The way that the curbs are set up over here in Japan is you've just got like the road and the curb. No, sorry, the road and the pavement. If there's a pavement, they're at exactly the same level. You know, there's no like height difference. And you've got this curb, which is like the world's tallest curb. It's really something special. You know, it's about, I don't know, is it about like 30 centimeters tall or something crazy? And it's incredibly close to your car. So if you just carelessly turn, well, just basically do any normal turn, like a left turn, it will just scrape all the side of your car. And my wife's done this before. Not in my car, in our car. She's done it in her parents' car, I believe. And everyone's done this, I'm guessing. I mean, you look at these curbs and they all have like all these different colors of paint on and all these different chips missing out of them. And so it's like, it's not just like a rare thing that occasionally happens. No, this happens often. And despite this, no one's ever thought, hang on a minute, why don't we just move this curb a bit further away? So so no one's going to like hit it with their car. And some things like that, that, you know, in Japan, I just can't get my head around. I just can't understand it. So it was nice being back in a country that had like sensible curbs where I didn't have to worry about hitting, you know, scraping all the side of my car on a curb. I'm trying to think if there's anything that frustrated me about driving in England. Because, you know, so far I've just talked about, oh, it was nice to have this again and nice not to worry about this and all that kind of stuff. I think, I don't know about frustrating me, but I do remember finding roundabouts a bit harder to navigate. Not the normal ones, but sometimes we've got crazy roundabouts. We've got roundabouts that lead onto roundabouts, like double roundabouts, or you can, I don't know, there's this one place not too far from my parents, and there must be about 4 or 5 different roundabouts, like in very, very close proximity. Some of them lead pretty much directly onto each other. And there was a time there where I was a bit like, I can't remember what I'd normally do here. Just, you know, not having the experience of driving on a roundabout like every day, or, you know, like every time you drive, does sort of make you less familiar with it. So I'd say like a bad point is probably roundabouts. I just don't think, I mean, I don't know, if you're used to them, they're fine. But if you're not, they're probably one of the harder things about driving on our roads. What else is difficult? Manual cars. Almost all the cars are manual over here. But like I say, you know, if you're used to it, not really an issue. If you're not, oh dear. I can understand why people might think, you know, driving in England is very hard. You couple up the manual cars and you couple up the roundabouts, and then it's, yeah, I can see why it'd be challenging. Compared to that, I would say driving in Japan was probably easier. I know there's a few like things I've mentioned. I don't know. Is it? I mean, like you've got the dangerous curbs, like I've just mentioned. The most difficult thing about driving in Japan, I've said before, in a previous episode, I think is just the obstacles that you can get in the road, the people walking in the road, the cyclists in the road, because the roads are a lot narrower typically over here. So a cyclist in the road is quite different to having a cyclist in the road in the UK. Then you've got all of the like really tight, sharp bends over here. There are mirrors on so many corners over here. So many turns, left and right turns. You've got these mirrors on that you have to look in because you can't see what's coming. You know, it's like we don't seem to have that kind of turn in England. Maybe someplace out in the countryside, I've driven past many years ago, and there was a mirror somewhere. But we're talking about something incredibly rare here, whereas in Japan they're absolutely all over the place. You will pull up to a junction, and you can't see left or right. There's like a building there, and there's a building on the other side, and it's like I cannot see what is coming on the road, so I've got to look in the mirror. And to be honest, the mirrors, it's pretty hard. It's things look very far away in the mirrors, so it is pretty hard to see if there's a car coming or not. So that is bloody dangerous. It really is. I always take extra care when I'm trying to cross those kind of crossings in Japan. So it's all the obstacles on the road. It's all the small roads, the tight turnings, the pedestrians in the road. I don't know. It is more difficult in some sense driving in Japan. But I think parts of it are also easier. Depending on what you're used to, it's easier because the cars are automatic. It's easier because there's no roundabouts. It's easier because it's slower. So overall, I'd still say that I prefer driving in England more. Maybe it's just what I'm used to. But yeah, it'd be interesting to I don't know, when I go back to Japan, it'd be interesting to see after driving, in England for 3 months, sort of getting used to our roads and our cars again. Be interesting to see what it's like getting back into my little K car, my little lightweight Japanese car, and driving around the Japanese roads and seeing if it feels any different again. Anyway, that is it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Bye-bye.